Okay, so hello everyone. I hope that you can all hear me and see my screen. Please do not hesitate to interrupt for any question or any technical problem. So the title of the talk is Maximum Entropy Principle, and it is essentially based on the chapter 11 of the book by Edwin T. James, Probability Theory, the Logic of Science. And I send you a pointer to a PDF of this book with the mail. So let's start. This is the problems that any data scientist should face. So you have a huge bunch of numbers and you would like to do something interesting with it. But it's a problem of data scientists, but more generally, it's a problem of a lot of scientists that have to try to do something interesting with their data. So, of course, it's completely impossible to do anything without adding some, at least, elementary knowledge to this question. So we have to add some preliminary knowledge. For instance, here you have to say the first thing that each of the 20,000 digits I just show you is a number. So each digit is a number. The second preliminary knowledge is that the 20,000 data come from the same phenomena. This seems quite obvious, but in fact, in physics, for instance, it's usually a very big difficulty because you have to isolate the phenomenon that you want to study, and it may be very, very, very difficult. The third piece of knowledge you have to add is that you observe a single variable V that has been observed 20,000 times. Of course, it could be even coming from the same phenomena, several variables. Here, it's a single variable. And the fourth piece of knowledge, which is very important, is that the order of this observation is not relevant. It means that exchanging two of these digits, the place of two of these digits doesn't change anything to the phenomenon you are observing. So you need at least these four pieces of knowledge to start to do something interesting, which is to consider the frequency. If you don't have these four pieces of knowledge, you are not even capable of building frequencies. So it's the first probability distribution, which is equal to the frequency. Then we can add the fifth piece of knowledge, which is to say that the variable V may take 6 different values and only 6 different values. And if you have that, you can change a little bit the frequency to the Laplace succession law, which states that instead of having any ni divided by n, you have ni plus 1 divided by n plus the number of possibility, here 6. What's important in that, it has no importance when the number of observation ni is important, but it may be very important when ni is small, and especially if it's 0, because it means that when ni is 0, the probability of this possibility is not 0. It may be very small, but it's not 0. And having the 0 probability is always a problem. and also considering that something that has never been observed is impossible is a very strong statement, most of the time completely false. Okay, so we have now already at least two probability distribution, the uniform distribution, which would say that every of the 6 possibilities is equal, and the Laplace succession law, which has this value. Okay, now we can add another piece of knowledge, which is that this 20,000 observation came from the throwing of a die. In fact, a guy named Wolf, at the end of the 19th century, threw a dice 20,000 times and recorded the result of this throw very carefully. But as you saw on the preceding slide, this dice doesn't seem to be very fair, because the results are very different from the uniform distribution that we could expected. So now we can, as we have a physical object, we can start to do some physics and try to explain why this dice is loaded. So the first hypothesis that we can do is that the dots correspond to small excavations, and that change the place of the center of gravity. So this is the first hypothesis. The excavation shifted the gravity center. And to try to explore this hypothesis, we can propose an observable. So an observable is a function of the variable v. Here the observable is v. And we will try to explore here, using this observable, the fact that the outcome of the throw is correlated to the value of the throw. And on the 20,000 data, we can compute the mean of V, and this gives the value F1. And it confirms that the dice is loaded because it should be 3.5, and it's nearly 4. Okay, from these two values, we can try to build a probability distribution to describe that. So for a few minutes, I would like you to admit these two results. I will demonstrate them further on. So if you have a problem where you have some observable F, and you know some level of constraint that should be equal to the appearance of this observable, then you have a solution, which is the maximum entropy distribution. And this solution takes the form of an exponential function of this form. I will come back on this later on. But for the time being, if we apply this to the problem of the dice, then we find this form. And here are the results. So the hypothesis H1 gives us this probability, which are not very good. They are far from the frequency or the Laplace succession. So we'll try to do some more physics. And building a fair dice is a perfect cube is not that simple. So we may consider that, in fact, the dice is oblong, is in one of the possible directions. So for instance, for hypothesis H2, in the direction 1, 6. So we may consider that this direction is a bit longer or a bit smaller than the other ones. Okay. So we have yet the first observable, but we can add a second one, which says that this observable is equal to -1 if the value of v is equal to 1, or if v is equal to, should be 6.
Sorry?
And otherwise it's equal to 0. And we can compute the level of constraint from the data by computing the esperance like this, well, the mean, and that's where we get this value. Now we have a probability distribution with two coefficients, the coefficient for the observable v and the coefficient for the second observable. And we can get back to the probability distribution. So here we have the hypothesis H2, but we can do that also for the other direction, which is the direction 2, 5, and for the direction 3, 4. And we see from the results that the hypothesis H4 for saying that the direction 3, 4 is a little bit longer or smaller than the other one, give very good results that are very close to the Laplace succession law. Pardon. Well, so we can try to confirm that this hypothesis is better than the other one. So we have 4 different hypotheses, 5 with the Laplace succession law, and we can try to compare them. And for that, we have a tool which is Bayes' theorem. And Bayes' theorem is used here to compute the probability of a given hypothesis knowing the data. And it's equal to the probability, the prior on the hypothesis, times the probability of the data knowing the hypothesis, and with the normalization constant, which is the probability of the data. So this is the probability of the data knowing the hypothesis. It's very easy to compute in our case because there is a constant, and then the probability for the value 1 times the number of times we observe value 1 multiplied by the probability for value 2 at the power the number of times we observe value 2, and so on for the 6th value. If we suppose that the probability, the prior on the hypothesis is uniform, then we can compute the probability of the hypothesis knowing the data, which is a normalizing constant, and the same product. Sorry for that. Then for our different hypotheses, we can compute the probability of this hypothesis knowing the data. And of course, the Laplace succession law, which is directly the data, is very probable. However, the hypothesis H4 is still in 1%, but it's very close compared to the Laplace succession law. And essentially, compared to the other hypothesis, we have very low probability. And uniform probability is very, very low, confirming that this dice was really loaded. So in some sense, here, there was some magic because more than 120 years after the throw of these dice, without any knowledge on Wolf or what is the process he follow to do that, we can conclude that there is a good chance, at least concerning this hypothesis, that the dice was oblong in the direction 3-4. Okay, so now I will try to generalize that. So I have some variable. It could be one, but it could be several variables. And we look for the probability distribution of the variable, starting from some bunch of M observable, M function from from V to R. And there is nearly no constraint on this function. It could be discontinuous function, as we just saw before. And we have some constraint level, value Fg, M of them, that says that the esperance of the observable with this probability distribution should be equal to Fg. Now the Maxent principle says that the best solution maximize the entropy, and the entropy has this form. The age of a given probability distribution on V is minus the sum on the different possible value of V of the probability of V log the probability.
Absolument. Ah oui.
Sorry. Hello?
Ouais.
So I will try to explain in the following why the rationale of this Maxent principle. And after that, from this principle, we will try to demonstrate that there is a solution, which is the maximum entropy probability distribution. And it takes this form of an exponential
il y a un vrai problème.
Raja,
t'as
ton micro.
Qui est complexe, hein, parce que oui, enfin, on est tous conscients de beaucoup de problèmes au niveau de la recherche en France. Je ne...
Voilà, je lui ai coupé le sifflet. Okay, so there are different ways to justify the maximum entropy principle. The first one is the combinatorial justification, also named as the Wallis derivation. And to try to explain it, I will start with an example in statistical mechanics. So in statistical mechanics, you have Q possible microscopic states, and you have N particles. So the whole story would be to know everything about all the N particles. But of course, in physics, N is very, very large, and we don't want the whole story. We want a way to summarize this information. And this way, the way it's done, it's to consider macroscopic states, which are defined by the number of each particle in each of the Q possible microscopic states. Now we have some constraints. We suppose usually that our phenomenon is isolated, so the number of particles is fixed. We also suppose that it is isolated in terms of energy, so the quantity of energy is fixed, and it should be equal to the sum of the energy of each microscopic state multiplied by the number of particles in this state, microscopic state. Now we can look at the number of ways a given macroscopic state can be realized by the N particle. And this is just a very simple combinatorial problem. And this number of ways a given macroscopic state can be realized is by factorial N divided by the product of the factorial of the number of particles in each state. Now we can consider that obviously the macroscopic state that is the most probable is the one that can be realized in the biggest number of ways. So we can take the logarithm of this and use the Stirling formula, which says that the logarithm of factorial n is at first approximation equal to n log the n. And we get this formula, and we see that here appears something that is very close to the form of the entropy. Okay, now we can do the same reasoning for probabilistic inference. So we consider that we have q different logical propositions. So for the example of the dice, there are 6 propositions. The value of v is 1, the value of v is 2, the value of v is 3, etc. And the whole story was our problem at the beginning. So we have 20,000 propositions, 20,000 values for v. Okay, this is the whole story, but here again, we don't want to have this because it's too many numbers and we don't know what to do with it. So we will try to summarize that by a probability distribution where the probability of 1 is equal to n1 divided by n and so on. Now we have some constraints. We have the normalization constraint that says that the sum of the probability is equal to 1. It's completely equivalent to this. And instead of the constraint on the energy level, we have the constraint on the constraint level Fg, which says that the esperance of the different observables, the m different observables, should be equal to Fg. And here again, we can say that the most probable distribution should be the ones that can be realized in the most number of ways. To give some sense, maybe a little bit more concrete to that, our 20,000 numbers, we take as an hypothesis that 2 numbers can be exchanged from one position to another position. So the order of these 20,000 numbers doesn't matter. And for instance, if we have all the 1 at the beginning, all the 2, if it's completely ordered, it is an equivalent representation to the one I show you at the beginning. So the probability distribution here, its probability corresponds to all the possible exchange that it represents. So all the possible change in the order. And this is exactly this number. And we can apply the same logarithm. We can take the logarithm as we did before. And what we obtain directly is the entropy. So maximizing the entropy corresponds to maximizing the number of ways this data could be changed in its order. And of course, it's the ones that can be changed in the most number of ways, which is the most probable. Okay, was that clear? Any question? Because this is a tricky point, but a very important one. So if you have any question, do not hesitate. There is another kind of justification to the maximum principle, which is called the Shannon's derivation, and where there is a reasoning saying that what we want to do is to maximize the amount of uncertainty, still verifying the constraint. and a demonstration that this amount of uncertainty can be represented, measured by the entropy. I will not go in the detail of that. You have the reference here. It's very interesting, but well, it's suppose more, I would say, epistemological prior to derive it. Okay, so now if we admit that the solutions should maximize the entropy, to find the solution of this problem, we have to solve a problem of optimization under constraints. So we want to optimize the entropy, and the constraints are this one for the normalization, and the M constraint coming from the M level of constraint Fg. So it's an optimization problem. We can apply a variational Lagrange method to try to find a solution, a possible solution to this problem. So this is a very common procedure where we say that the value of H minus linear combination of these experiences should be equal to 0. At least the differential of this should be equal to 0. Well, it's nothing else than saying that when you find a maxima, the derivative at this maxima should be equal to 0. Then we can compute the M partial derivative of this expression relatively to each probability. Sorry, not M, here it's the 6 of them. So we obtain this formula. It's directly derived from that. And given the form of the entropy, there is an obvious solution to this problem, which is to say that the probability of a given value at a given value I is equal to E at the power minus lambda 0. This is a constant. In fact, it's directly coming from this constraint, and it can be seen also as a normalization constant. And at the power also minus the sum on the M different level of the lambda G time Fg of Xi. The lambda are called the Lagrange multiplier, and it's really the usual way to solve this kind of problem. In fact, the physicists, they prefer to give a value to lambda 0 to make appear that it is a normalization constant. And usually they state it as the logarithm of Z. And now the result takes this form. And Z is called the partition function. Okay, now we find this solution, but we still have only half of the story, because this leads us to the possible maxima that we are not yet sure that it is the real maxima for the entropy. So we have to demonstrate that it's the absolute maxima. I will not go in all the details because it's a little bit tedious, but it starts from this inequality that says that the logarithm of x is less or equal than x minus 1 when x is positive. And from this, we can derive that the entropy is less than this expression. And it happens that, in fact, the proposed solution by the Lagrange method verifies this expression, which proves that this proposed solution is the best solution we could find. Okay, some of maximum entropy distribution are very well known and you use it very often. So for instance, if the only constraint observable is the variable x itself, and you know a mean for this variable x, then the maximum entropy solution is the exponential distribution. In fact, we already saw that in the dice problem because it corresponds to the hypothesis H1, where the only observable was x. If now there are two observable, which are x and x to the power 2, then the solution takes this form, and it is nothing else than the Gaussian distribution. So the Gaussian distribution is the maximum entropy solution when you have only two observable, x and x to the square. Okay, now we have a solution. We know that it is the best one, but we can wonder how good it is. So if we change a little bit the Lagrange coefficient, the lambda, which means that we change a little bit the probability, is the entropy decreasing fast? Or even more interesting, is the probability of the probability distribution decreasing fast? In fact, we already saw the solution to this problem. It is always it is yet the combinatorial argument. And so if we have two probability distribution, we can compute W for the entropy, the maximum entropy solution, and we can compute W for the other solution. We can compute the ratio of these two W, and it's equal to a constant time the exponential of n and the difference of the two entropy. And here you have to realize that it is the number of observations. So in the case of the dice, it was 20,000. So n is very big. It can be even much bigger. And this quantity grows very, very, very fast. So it means that the concentration for the probability distribution around the maximum entropy is huge. In fact, in some sense, we already saw that when we compare the probability of the hypothesis H4 compared to the other one, and we see that these probabilities are very, very small compared to this one. Okay, now, well, we can think that we have a magic solution because knowing some observable and knowing some level of constraints that are very easy to compute, for instance, from the data or eventually imposed by law of physics or whatever, we have directly a solution that give us the probability distribution that describes the system. It could be really magic because, well, we have the solution, and for instance, we could even dream to use it by having a lot of observable, computing the maximum entropy distribution, and of course the observables that are not useful, that don't bring any information, would correspond to Lagrange coefficient close to 0. So it could be a way to build a model. Unfortunately, there is a little problem, which is that computing the Lagrange coefficient from the value of the level of constraint is a very difficult problem where you have to solve m differential equation, and most of the time it cannot do like this in practice. So too bad, there is no magic. But the physicist considers the problem in another way. From the maximum entropy principles, they derived a lot of relation related the level of constraint, the Lagrange multiplier, the experience of the observables, and so on. I show you only very few of them, but in fact you can have a derivative in series, in different orders, and so on. And here there is really a phys-jig, because from this simple expression, in fact, it's possible to derive nearly all results of thermodynamic, mechanical statistics, and even more generally from any physics problems that consider that you have a bunch of microscopic state and you want to describe it with macroscopic state. So it's really magic because, well, this relation in thermodynamic and mechanical statistics were derived by the physicists in the hard way, without knowing obviously the maximum entropy result. But all of them can be re-derived directly from this mathematical result. And what's also very interesting is that they depend essentially on this combinatorial argument and not on any physical question other than saying that the most probable physical state is the one that can be realized in the biggest number of ways. So I have nearly finished. I will just want to do some remarks about scientific induction. So if we suppose that we have two models, the model A with 2 observable and the model B with 3 observable, we can derive from for these 2 models the probability, so the maximum entropy probability distribution, and the maximum entropy of the model B should be less or equal than the maximum entropy of the model A, as there is some more information in the model B. There are different situations. There is the situation where the information F3 is redundant, which in that case, and only in that case, SB is equal to SA, and the value of the Lagrange multiplier 3 is equal to 0. So this is the characteristics of the fact that the new information, well, is not new. You have also the situation where the information F3 is in some sense contradictory with the information coming from F1 and F2. And in that case, it will be impossible to solve the Maxent problem for B. Maybe the most interesting is the case where there is a surprise. So SB is much less than SA, and the value of lambda 3 is important compared to lambda 1 and lambda 2. It means that the model B is surprising and in some sense is much better than the model B, than the model A, sorry. So in fact, we already saw that. We saw that, for instance, when we see that adding the observation of the fact that the dice may be oblong improve from the only fact that the center of gravity was shifted. So H3, H2, and H4 were much better than H1. Finally, if the entropy of the data, which means in fact the entropy of the Laplace succession law, is much lower than the entropy of the different hypotheses, then it could be an indices that there is some hidden variable or some missing observables that are important and that we should try to find. In fact, this is the story of poor Gibbs. Gibbs, at the beginning of the 20th century, proposed a maximum entropy solution to different problems in thermodynamics, and it works pretty well to predict some of the observation, but it didn't work at all for some other. And the poor guy looked for missing observable or some hidden variables for years. And he died without finding them. And it's only a few years after his disease that the solution were found. And it was the fact that some of the level of energy has to be considered as quanta. They were not continuous, but discretized level of energy. Okay, I will finish some few take-home message. The first one is that the most probable state or the most probable distribution is the one that can be realized in the largest number of ways. So in some sense, it's a quite trivial consideration, but which has very important consequences. And one of the consequences is that the maximum entropy principle is universally applicable. It can be applied to physics, but it can be applied to any data science problem for the exact same reason. And especially, which is usually the case when you have this exchangeability in the order of the observation. Unfortunately, the Lagrange coefficient may not be explicitly computed most of the time. So there is no magic, but there is physics. It could be very interesting in a lot of problems to try to do as physicists do and derive some relation instead of trying to derive explicitly the value of the Lagrange multiplier. In fact, there is a community that is exactly doing this, the Maxent community, and the Maxent community has a conference every 2 years for now, I don't know, 30 years or something like that. And a book every 2 years with a lot of interesting results coming from this principle. However, even if the maxent may not always be practically used, it should be in the mind, I think, of each data scientist, as it solves a lot of the numerous controversies, especially, for instance, all the debate around frequency, probability, and so on, can be seen and solved in a much simpler way when you consider the maxent solution. And finally, I think that the family of exponential distribution should be one of the privileged probabilistic modeling family, maybe the one, because we see that it derives directly from the maxent principle. So maybe it's not possible to compute exactly the Lagrange multiplier, but looking for solution in the exponential distribution family, I think it's a very good way to look for interesting solutions. Okay, thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I can try to answer. You should be able to activate your microphone. Well,
thank you, Pierre. I don't know if there are any questions, but it seems no. Like for me, it was a very clear explanation, even I'm not in deep knowledge of what you explained, but that was very clear for me.
Okay, anyway, my intention was to try to interest you to this question and not to solve all the question around it and all the, but if you are interested, really you should read the book by James. It's really a masterpiece, I think. And also, well, there are a number of other papers and books on this subject. But starting from James' book is a good starting point. Okay, if there is no questions, then we can stop here.
Yeah, thank you a lot again, Pierre. And for the recording, yeah, I think you can save it and then we share with the other afterward.
Yeah, I will just edit the beginning and I will make it available somewhere and you could download it to. Okay.
Okay, thank you again. Yes, see everyone to the other journal club.